Hello everybody, my name is Kara, and today I am here with the punk rock book tag. This tag was created by Dane from Dane Reads, and I will link his original video down below. I was tagged by Todd from Todd the Librarian, and I will also link his channel down below. So thank you, Todd. Question number 1. God Save the Queen by the Sex Pistols. Name a book with a queen who ain't no human being. I'm going with Summer from the Obsidian Mirror series by Catherine Fisher. This is a second book which I haven't read yet, but Summer is sort of this like queen of the elves or queen of the fairies. It's not really clear what she is, but she was one of my favorite characters from the first book because she's just so otherworldly and mysterious, and it's like you never know what her motivations are or what she's gonna do. She was just a really interesting character in a really scary kind of way. Like, you don't want to mess with her, but I'm glad she's in the book. Number 2 is Pretty Vacant, also by the Sex Pistols. Name a book with a character who's pretty vacant. So rather than going with a character who's really vapid or stupid, I decided to go with kind of a more literal translation of this question. And I'm going with Rose from A Long, Long Sleep by Anna Sheehan. This is like a science fiction Sleeping Beauty retelling, and I loved it. I think it was handled really well, and part of that is because of the characterization of Rose, the Sleeping Beauty character. This book really explores the psychological, like physical and emotional effects of being asleep for 100 years. You know, waking up and your family is gone and the world has changed and your body doesn't feel familiar anymore. And the thing about Rose is that she and all the other characters around her really do notice that like some part of her seems to be missing. And when you find out later like what actually happened to her and why she is the way that she is, it's really chilling and I think very, very well handled. And she's definitely a character who seems a little bit empty at the beginning, but not in a stupid or underdeveloped way. It definitely added a lot of suspense and sympathy for her character while also being a realistic exploration of a fairy tale. Number 3 is Ever Fallen in Love by the Buzzcocks. Name a book with a character who fell in love with someone they shouldn't have fallen in love with. I think there's a lot of books that could be called that, but I am going with Aaron and Kestrel from The Winter's Curse by Marie Rudkowski. I still need to read the third book. This is a pattern, I think. Aaron and Kestrel are very, very different people from very different backgrounds. Aaron is one of the people who has been subjugated by Kestrel's people, so it starts out a very unequal relationship, and that's a big reason why it would be messy if they did develop feelings for each other, and there's a lot of other political and cultural reasons that neither side would want these two to fall in love, but they do against all odds, and I think that Marie Rudkowski does a really good job of showing the reader what a long way these two characters have to go if they're going to be together. The reader is rooting for them, at least I was. Number 4 is I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones. Name a book that made you want to be sedated. I'm going with The Kiss of Deception by Mary E. Pearson. Now this works on 2 levels because 1, I was really, really, really bored for a lot of it, so I felt like I kind of was sedated. And also, I got so pissed off by some of the things that happened in this book that Leah, the main character, does, that I probably should have been sedated for my own health and happiness. But oh my god, like the number of decisions she makes that totally screw over the people around her. And that she makes these decisions for no good reason, by the way. So like the number of times she makes those choices and then is surprised when they actually affect people who are not her. Number 5 is London Calling by The Clash. Name a book set in London or in which a character lives by the river. That is Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. This story takes place in 2 Londons, London Above, which is our world, and London Below, which is the magical sort of underground world. We follow our main character who gets dragged into all of this mysterious stuff going on under the world that we know. Number 6 is The Passenger by Iggy Pop and the Stooges. Name a book in which a character is a passenger and rides through the city's backside. For that one, I am going with They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. And one of the things about this book that I love and that makes it a good fit for this question is that you can't really decide which character of the 2 that we follow is like pulled along for the ride. Because at the beginning it's like, okay, Mateo is the follower, Rufus is the adventurer and the one who drags them into all these crazy situations to take their minds off the fact that it's their last day. But as it goes on, you really see that like Mateo is also brave in his own way and that he's also taking Rufus on this journey, and it's so beautiful and wonderful and heartbreaking. Number 7, Teenage Kicks by the Ramones. Name a book that was the best you ever had and makes you want to hold it tight and get teenage kicks right through the night. So I can't really pick like a favorite book, like the best I ever had, because how can you ask that question of somebody who loves to read? But definitely one of my favorites is Wildwood Dancing by Juliet Marillier. I think I've mentioned this book like once before. It's a fairy tale retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, but there's only 5 sisters. And I love this book so much. The writing is gorgeous and the atmosphere of this book is really like spooky just a little bit, but it's also really calming and comforting, and the sister relationships are fantastic, and the elements of the fairy tales I think are woven into the story so well. I just really love this one. All of the relationships are done so well. I mentioned the sister relationships, but the friendships and the romantic relationships are also handled really well, and I highly recommend this book. One of my favorite retellings, and also just a fantastic fantasy novel that's really quiet and mysterious and character driven. Number 8 is Fat Lip by Sum 41. Name a mainstream book that makes you not want to waste your time becoming another casualty of society. So I'm actually going to go with an author whose books I hear quite a bit about, and I'm sure they're great, I just have no interest in reading them. And that is Morgan Matson. I know a lot of people love her. She's one of their favorite authors. People say she's like one of the queens of contemporary. But none of her book summaries really appeal to me or draw me in, and at this point I'm okay not reading anything from her. Number 9 is SelfEsteem by The Offspring. Name a book that you struggled through, because the more you suffer, the more it shows you really care. I'm going with Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. This is the 800 or more page biography. It was one of the inspirations for the Broadway show, and I did really enjoy this book. I think I ended up giving it 5 stars. It's definitely something you have to plan reading time for, because I would never just be like, oh, you know what, I feel like some light reading. Let's pick up this 800-page biography. But it's so interesting, and it's really written in an engaging style. So once I actually applied myself to reading it consistently, I finished it really quickly, but the first chunk definitely took me months and months to read because there was just so much information and I hadn't really read a lot of biographies before. But it is a fantastic book, and if you're interested at all in Alexander Hamilton, or just like trying to get more, I guess, nonfiction or biographies, it is really, really well written and fascinating. Number 10 is Basket Case by Green Day. Name a book with a character who is a melodramatic fool, neurotic to the bone, no doubt about it. So I'm going to go with Hamlet from the play Hamlet by William Shakespeare. Now, I love that play. It's pretty much my favorite tragedy I think I've ever read. Definitely my favorite Shakespeare tragedy. And I also love Hamlet as a character. He's just such an interesting protagonist. Just some of the choices he makes and like the way he reacts to things, it's like sometimes very relatable, to be honest. I was reading it for the first time in high school. Like, I could definitely connect to his emotional state sometimes. I mean, there's no denying that Hamlet is a hot mess, but that doesn't make him any less interesting to follow. And finally, number 11 is Sheena is a Punk Rocker by the Ramones. Tag your most punk rock booktube friends to take this tag. I'm going to tag Michael from Catalyst Reads and Manal from Manal and Her Books. I might also tag a few other people in the description, and of course anybody else who sees this video and who wants to do the tag. It's a lot of fun and I highly recommend it. Thank you again, Todd, for tagging me. I really enjoyed this, and thank you, Dane, for creating such a fun tag. I will see you guys soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!